thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to just come on and as a part of some of our initial shows for this podcast, and I'm sure that over the years that I've received so much from you and learned a lot from you. I'm sure this is going to be a great opportunity for some of our listeners and people that are viewing on other platforms to just take some insight from a very well-informed, seasoned leader who is still and for the most part, making trend setting too. So it's like, your vision, man, for where you've taken Danberry has been great. You developed what you call and what we've come to know now as a kingdom business.
Right.
And you have even set some trails as to how to transition a company, and also some things around succession planning that you've just been doing that has just been phenomenal. So so today I just want to talk with you about a lot of that, talk to you about leadership, and and first just start off with, how did you get to where you are now? What was the path? Like, did your when you started off in life and leadership and business, did you have any idea you would be where you are now as one of the top performing real estate agents?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I just had a milestone. I had my 70th birthday late February. So I think there's these different milestones where they cause you to step back and reflect in your life. And, that's one of those. And I think I was pretty blessed early on to have encouraging parents. I was involved in not only a youth fellowship in my church that helped build up my confidence, but I was involved in some things at our local YMCA that indicated that I had leadership capabilities. Those were further enhanced in high school and then developed more in college. I didn't know exactly what pathway that was going to take me on, but originally, I got in the real estate business to pay for law school. And I am a licensed attorney. I don't practice law. I found out that I love the entrepreneurialism that was associated with the real estate industry. And after, I was not a very successful agent at the start. I barely squeaked by. I think each year for 5 years, I asked myself, am I going to make it or not? But, if you get better every year, eventually you get a pretty decent income coming in, which happened for me. I was blessed that way. But no, I can look back. There are plenty of bumps in the road. But the last 20, 25 years have been a real blessing, and that coincidentally dates back to when I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior. So we know that there's oftentimes a connection that way.
Yeah. So you actually started off in law school and to be a lawyer. So you got into real estate to pay for law school.
I had previously, my dad was a small town real estate broker, and one summer he's having a double cataract surgery, and this was before the easy surgeries of today. Those are big operations back then, and you couldn't see for probably a couple of weeks. So he actually had me get my real estate license when I was age 21, and that was back in 1971. So people can do the math that I am 70 years old, and I helped in that summer. I didn't think much of it. And 3 years later, when I called him for some more money to pay for housing when I was in law school, he reminded me that I had a real estate license. And I switched. I was no longer licensed with him. I went to a broker in the Toledo area. And like I said, it wasn't an instant success, but that's really how I launched my real estate career in my present hometown of Toledo, Ohio.
Awesome, man. Oftentimes we see people in success, and particularly with myself, You get around people that are very successful in the field that they have chosen, and you are one of those that I've had the opportunity of sitting around the table with over the years, at least once a month, to get insight from and share different things. And so I've often wondered, like, because I think a lot of times, we judge ourselves based on a lot of other people, and so when you see a person that's really successful in an area, I know as for emerging leaders and and even ministry leaders, which I do coach, both of those, and it's like they want to get to that. They see this success, they want to get there, but not understanding that there's a process that you have to take in order to get there. And I think the biggest thing that people that's successful now does is rob the newcomers the opportunity to suffer. It's like it's almost like we want that quick success, so we don't suffer through the starting days or the startup times and all those things. And so talk to us about that. Like what would you say to new leaders coming in? And what do you say to new agents that's coming in now that says, hey,
Right.
I want to be the next Danberry, I want to be the next Lynn Fruth?
Well, the problem extends beyond what's typically referred to as the millennials and entering business. I mean, this goes back to parent rearing and not wanting your kids to ever fail. And what a unfortunate situation that is. The only way you can really get stronger is to sometimes get knocked down, and make yourself get back up. But we make it pretty clear for people getting in the real estate business. It's a low threshold of entry from a capital standpoint. Most small businesses fail because of a lack of capital. But you can get in the real estate business for a couple $1,000s. Staying in the real estate business, however, might take a little bit more than that. And most people might only last a year because, like me, they weren't an instant success. The good news about my early failures, I only had to support myself. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have a family. I had a roommate who paid half the rent, and my overhead was very low, so I could get by on popcorn and beer in the early days. And it was a pretty good diet at the time. But no, I think we make it pretty clear that it isn't a get-rich-quick business. That if you're going to do it right, you're going to build it for the long term. That it's not transactional; it's relational. Relationships aren't formed overnight. They're formed over a long period of time. So don't come in it for a quick buck, because you may get lucky and find that, but that's not the agent we're looking for. We're looking for agents that are looking for a long-term career based on being a good steward to the customers that they serve.
Awesome. Yeah, and you've had agents, one of which was my real estate agent when I moved back to Toledo, that has come in with a family, moved from other cities. This is their first time coming in, and you've been able to coach them to be very successful in what they do. And I think that's just the culture of Danberry. Like, you have a very robust training culture for success. And so talk to us a little bit about that, and like how important it is for a company or any business to have that type of training embedded into the culture.
Well, I think, you've mentioned two things, culture and training. And, to us, the most important one is culture. And I think you began the interview referring to us as a Christian business. I always say either biblical business or that we're a kingdom company. And that means different things to different people. But if you subscribe to our culture, and everyone could have a different definition for what a kingdom company is, but I think if you produce the fruit that's referenced in Galatians 5, the fruit of the Spirit. In fact, let me just share this little thing. This was on Facebook. We have a Danberry Facebook page. Okay. This appeared, if I may, yesterday. This is an agent who joined us a year ago, but is retiring from the real estate business. He's already retired, but so he posted this on our website, and I think it's a great illustration of our culture and a reflection on our training as well. So I'm not going to read anything else other than this to you, but let me just say this. He says, I have met several people that have deeply touched my life, and I would like to list each and every one of you individually here, but the list would be too long. Simply know that I love all of you, your friendship, assistance, instruction, advice for a very long time. You all helped me through my mistakes, and your guidance kept me on a forward-thinking, positive outlook. I have had a strong belief in my faith for about the last 10 years. At Danberry, many of my faith lessons are supported fully. I hope each agent will continue to demonstrate these concepts. Love those around you. Speak of your faith openly without preaching. Demonstrate your faith in all that you do. Help your community and those in need. Fear not, and thank the Lord for more blessings than we can count. Now, this is from an agent, unsolicited, posted on our company Facebook page. And I like to think, and I know better, not all of our agents are that articulate and have bought into our culture, but that is our culture. When you look at Galatians, and we actually have Galatians 5, the fruit of the Spirit, 9 fruits, on a poster, a large poster, in each of our offices. And we have Galatians in very small print at the bottom, because we think to be a kingdom company, you don't have to have a cross in the front yard of your business, and you don't have to be a preacher.
Right.
But you need to live your faith. And so whether you're a Christian or not, we think that people who have coworkers who love, experience joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, you're pretty lucky to have people around you that aspire to do that, maybe even accomplish some of it along the way. So that's our culture. And we make sure people understand when they join us, that's our culture. Now, you asked about training. We have more training than I can keep track of. I mean, and the good news is, and I have a very small part of it, I love to teach. So I teach a half a dozen courses a year, but we have such a tremendous team of committed people. What's unusual about some of our training that you don't find in other real estate companies, and my guess is probably a lot of other sales organizations, my agents technically compete with each other. Right? But you know what? My top agents are so willing to share their best practices with the new agents. It's heartwarming, but that's our culture. It's not from this idea that we live in a world of scarcity. We live in a world of bountifulness, and it's heartwarming to see that, because very few people in my business, owners of real estate companies nationally, I'm involved in a lot of organizations in my industry. I know what other real estate companies are like, not only in Toledo, but in other markets. We have a very special company that way.
Because, and that's interesting, because you mentioned how your agents share their best practices and things that work for them with new agents. I can remember, in transition and coming to you, trying to, talking about real estate and those things, and you pointed me to two people, actually three people in your organization, and all three of them either took time with me in person or on the phone to just say, hey, this is what it's like. This is how you can do well. This is what I suggest what you do when you start. Even before you start, while you're in school or going after your license, you should be doing X, Y, and Z. And, and it was such a refreshing, because every one of them embodied that aspect of sharing and that, because and that goes back to a mentality, as you just referred to, of lack or plenty, and I
Mhm.
think as a leader, and in particular, even entrepreneurs that are starting out that feel like, the market may be saturated in this area or that area, regardless of whatever, field they're going into, how important is that type of mentality?
Well, to me, it's everything.
Mm.
Okay, obviously, but for some others, it isn't a priority.
Yeah.
But are they going to be there? What success will they have? How
Mm.
long will they be in their chosen field? I mean, a good friend of mine wrote a book, New York Times best-selling book. It's called Stewart Leadership. Tommy Spalding, in fact, he sent me a newsletter today, and his book's all about people who are great stewards of the gifts that God gave them.
Yeah.
And that's how they approach their life and their work and their business. And it's a book of all these success stories. And, people can cut corners. And,
Mm.
I didn't start out in, I got into management and real estate in the late 70s, early 80s. And I can tell you, I didn't start out with this worldview. I didn't start out with this uh, culture that I totally am married to today.
Yeah.
And guess what? I was successful, but I wasn't that successful.
Right.
I didn't really blossom until I got it figured out. I
Mm.
was very me focused.
Yeah.
My first 20, 25, 20 years of the business, I was very me focused. And that wasn't the best Lynn ever. I look back at some of those days and I'm not necessarily proud of those days. Yeah. It just, I'm not saying I did something terribly wrong, but I surely didn't go out of my way today, like I do
Mhm.
today, one of the things I do, I am in Fort Myers, Florida as we speak. My business is in Toledo, Ohio,
Mhm.
a Florida resident. That means I'm down here more of the year than I'm not. Uh, but does that mean I'm not connected? Especially with what's going on today. I mean, I I probably talk to a dozen agents every week. I send another 10 personal note cards out to agents. One of the things I ask all my leaders to tell me is, who's hurting? I want to know so I can reach out to help them. That's part
Yeah.
of my role today as I transition out of the ownership and leadership of my company. Is I want to be that kind of leader and support person.
Mm. And I think that's very key because, you have been a mentor to many, not just in your field, but to a lot of us who aspire to do ministry, be an entrepreneur, whatever it is. I remember your lesson to me on goal settings. I still have the notes and all of those things, because I was so amazed as to every time I was meeting with you, you were saying how many books you've read, how many goals you've crossed off of your list, and I'm like, how in the world does he find time to cross off that many goals and read that many books? But it's really about how you organize your day for success. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so, and that's one of the things I've got from your mentorship is really know where you're going and move that marker every day. And so, so what do you say to someone that's starting out as into, what's the best way or the way that you found that's really good about organizing your day, and how important is that for success?
Right. And I think what I start with is because, every job can be difficult. Some are more difficult than others, but I think being in sales, my agents don't have a salary. You eat what you kill, so to speak. But you need to know, Simon Sinek is a New York Times bestselling author, and he one of his books that I like the best is Knowing Your Why. And I want to make sure that anyone that comes to work for me understands, why am I doing this? And the importance of that is you're going to get the proverbial door slammed in your face more times than you want to count. You're going to have to pull yourself up off the ground because you've been knocked down. You might have had 3 or 4 accepted transactions that were supposed to close next week and they all just fell apart. Whatever the tragedy is, it will happen. No one's immune from it. So what makes you get up and keep going? It's knowing your why. And your why may be spiritually motivated. It may be, I want to make sure I put food on the table for my family. Or it may be any number of things. But whatever it is, you need to know why you're doing it, because when times get tough, you have to go back and remind yourself, this is why I'm doing this. And things don't always work the way you plan. You need to go back, this is why I'm doing this. If you have a strong enough why, then you go into, okay, here's my why. Now, how am I going to do it? And I do believe in goal setting. In fact, there's been plenty of studies that prove that goal setting works. One that I refer to and I teach to other people is one from a graduating class from Harvard University, perhaps arguably the best university in this country, maybe the world. But what was interesting to me when I read about it is it was the graduates from Harvard that actually set goals that did so much better than the other Harvard graduates. So, when I thought about that, and the good news is I discovered goal setting in my 20s, it works. So once you have a goal, then you come up with a plan. And once you have a plan, you need to come up with the tactics and the resources. But, it all starts with knowing your why, and then the goal that, what is it that I want to accomplish? Yeah. And if you know those things, everyone's heard the expression, it's time to come in and sharpen the axe, and that's, you mentioned reading books, that's sharpening the axe. This, in this environment, it's going to all these podcasts. I think I have 3 or 4 a week, but that's sharpening the axe.
Yeah.
You need to do that. You save more time. Have you ever chopped wood?
Yes.
Not many people have. I grew up on a farm, so I did a little wood chopping.
Yeah,
you don't have to chop wood with an axe. It's not sharp.
I did it for fun as a pass through to something that I was, like a farm or something I visited.
Well, the expression sharpen the axe, you can take a lot of time off from chopping wood to sharpen the axe and go back and chop. You'll get a lot more wood chopped with a sharper axe than trying to do it with a dull axe. And the same principle works in business. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to a pastor not that long ago about, that whole, the scripture where it says iron sharpens iron, you know what I mean? And so we have to take time for self-edification, education, all those things that build us up to be the leaders that we aspire to be. Because if we don't, then we're almost sort of doomed to fail and fail miserably in some regard. You can still have some levels of monetary success, but it'll almost drain you getting there, because like you said, you're exerting more energy
right.
versus taking that time out and being sharpened. And so, which is awesome. I know we're going to get back to the kingdom business here for a little bit and what that really means. But the one thing that you said, you just celebrated 70 years
right.
life, a lot of ups and downs and all of that. And the real estate market has its ups and downs over the years.
Yeah.
So what year was it that you actually bought Danberry, or became the primary owner?
Yeah, so in 1996, actually closed on it the day my daughter Macy was born. So I remember that date, October 10th, 1996, for that reason. I had bought it with a partner. I bought him out in 2015. I've been the sole owner the last several years, although I've sold a very small interest to three of my younger managers. They're all in their 30s. And in another 3 or 4 months, I'll be selling more to them. In fact, by August 1st, we'll all be 25% owners in the company. So that'll be
Hmm.
a big milestone. Uh, I will probably have some fewer responsibilities, although with this environment that we're in right now, I'm not sure that uh, how all that will work. But it's fun. It's been fun to see these young leaders, my next generation of owners, really develop and not just they knew the business, but they're learning leadership and applying our culture to their new roles. And
Yeah.
you work your life, and Danbury has been my life's work.
Hmm.
And I think it's a natural inclination for a lot of people. You want to see it perpetuated.
Yeah.
And I know it will be. In fact, I think it'll probably even be better. I wish I was as talented as these three individuals when I was their age. They're
Yeah.
ahead of where I was. So there's great cause for high expectations.
Yeah. And I really want you to touch on that a little bit, like, you know, the ups and downs of transitioning your company, selling, ownership and relinquishing ownerships and all those types of things. Um, and then, so, but now leading through, because this is just one of the things that you've had to lead Danbury through, but we've had some real estate slumps since you've owned Danbury. If I can remember right, what is it? Probably what, three or two? So a big,
Well, as I tell my new agents in orientation, I probably, since I've been in the business since the mid 70s, I probably have seen 4 or 5 or 6 recessions, but I've
yeah,
only really noticed two of them. And one of those was in the housing crash of 2008 and 9. The bubble exploded. And the other one was in the early 1980s when interest rates were 21%.
wow,
People complain when rates move from 4.5 to 5 today. Most of my career, if you could get a rate under 9%, that you were like in heaven. So
yeah,
it was a different world for many of those years.
yeah,
But yeah, so yeah, there were lots of ups and downs. I think, in fact, I had this conversation with my chief operating officer earlier today. My concern isn't for the veteran successful agent. They know what it takes to be successful and get through any market. We're in a new world today. Uh,
mm,
if you're one of my Michigan agents, you're not even allowed to show a home today because of the coronavirus.
yeah,
And it's what do you tell those people? Well, you tell them to hang in there, and hopefully they have a spouse with a steady income, because if you're not making money in real estate, you're not considered unemployed. You're just not earning any money, so you
not
can't
making,
work for unemployment. You can't apply for unemployment compensation.
yeah,
So, there are those ups and downs. There have been those for the industry, and then some from an individual standpoint. But
yeah,
I think it's, especially in times of trial, important that you've chosen as an anchor a company like ours that knows what to do,
mm,
exercises all the best practices to help people get to the other side. There will be a brighter day someday. We're going to get through this,
yeah,
and and we work hard at helping people get from here to there. So, right.
yeah, yeah. And so, and I know in the middle of leadership is important all the time. Um, Whether you're having high success or whether you're in a slump, uh, leadership and the communication from leadership is very important. And so, what would you say to young leaders now that's trying to figure out uh, not only what to do, but what to say to their employees and to their company, and then even to themselves? You know, they're just, I know man, that first week, it was like I was like numb. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I was just like, only thing I could think about was in one of our companies, all the cancellations that we were getting on the trainings and speaking engagements and all of those things. And I'm just thinking like, just I could just see dollar signs flying out. And then in our nonprofit, getting phone calls and different things of that nature where donations are stopping and all of that. And then in our
Right.
church, I think in our church, with the exception of maybe 5 people, 4 or 5 people, everybody lost their jobs. You know what I mean? Like everybody, like they're off work or whatever the case may be. And so I was just, and so you see all of that, and it can make a leader freeze.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you say to those leaders who are on the verge of freezing, and what do they do, and what do they communicate, and how do they position themselves in times like this?
Yeah, I'll answer it a couple different ways. First of all, you started out asking what I tell young leaders, and I would say this to any leader.
Yeah.
Okay, in fact, so I spent over 2 hours today. I'm a 70-year-old who's been in this business 45 years. I spent 2 hours today with cohorts from around the country who are in the same position I am. They own major real estate companies in their markets. In fact, our company is probably one of the smaller companies that are part of this group. And this is a group, since the crisis started with the virus, we have a Tuesday at noon boom meeting such as this. And so
Mm-hmm.
today's was the fourth one that we've had. And we don't go through it together, we go through it with each other. So I'm learning what the guy from Miami's doing, or the gal from San Francisco's doing, or the gentleman from Akron, Canton, Ohio are doing. And,
Mm-hmm.
or pick the city, there
Yeah.
are 12, 14 people on this call, and we're all going through it together. And someone says, well, here's what I've done with my vendors. Here's what I'm doing training with my agents. And even though you might have had the same thoughts, it's wonderful to have your thoughts confirmed by people that you know, trust, and respect.
Yeah.
So I think if I'm a leader of any sort, I believe you don't wait for a crisis to have a mentor or a peer group. I think that you should have one just as a matter of operation. That's how you and I met in a
Yeah.
group called Truth at Work,
Yeah.
Christian CEOs getting together. I was in it 10 years before I moved to Florida. Best day every month that I ever had was Truth at Work Day.
Yes.
And so building that kind of network is a must, I think, if you're going to be a leader in any business.
Yeah.
And then when crisis comes, like we're in right now, there are a lot of things you can do, but I think it's important that you're transparent. And I think it's important that you're an effective communicator. And just as we were talking, I thought of the story. This happened 2009, January 17th, 2009. So why do I remember that date? Well, that was a date I almost died. I had a near fatal heart attack. My daughter found me in my den on a Saturday morning, woke up her mother, rushed me to the ER. In the ER, triage, they quickly were running me over to the surgery center because I had 100% blockage in my descending artery. And they went in, they put a stent in, they wheeled me to ICU. I'm in ICU about 3 minutes. I look at my wife. I say, see if that phone works. She thought I was nuts. And I am nuts sometimes.
Yeah.
And it did. And I picked up the phone and I dialed my company voicemail. I was just 15 minutes before in ICU putting a stent in my heart so I could get blood flow. And now I'm leaving a company-wide voicemail, but I knew it was important that they heard it from me and that I was all right, okay? And I mustered the strongest voice I could. and I just said, hey, this happened. I'm all right. I'm recovering in ICU. I'm going to be back joining you as soon as I can. Love you all. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Short, sweet, but they heard it from me. Now, I have very good competitors. I don't want to paint any of them as evil doers, but if I don't define who I am, and if I don't control the narrative, they will.
They will.
You want to stay at Danbury? Well, Lynn's in trouble,
Yeah.
whatever it is. I mean,
Right.
that's just sometimes the way it is. So I think that in times of crisis, you need to, one, think before you speak. And it's nice to consult with trusted advisors to develop your message. And then you have to clearly communicate it. And you might have to communicate it several times. The teachers of the world will tell you sometimes it takes up to 7 times to communicate the message in as many different ways as you can.
Yes.
Stimulate the many different senses that we have for people to hear it. So clearly communicating, and if anything, our agents are telling us today they're communicating too often. I guess I'd rather be over communicate, especially in frequency. But I think that you need to provide hope. For our Michigan agents where you can't show a house, it's the short terms. There's could easily not be a lot of hope. But you take advantage of this opportunity. You clean up your database. You reach out to the people that you've done business with. You look for referral opportunities. There's a lot that you can do. We have our agents engaged every day in activity. And, but that doesn't happen. I know a lot of my competitors have gone into hiding.
Yeah.
And that's just because they don't have the structure I have. I have 16 people on my leadership team that are all 16 outstanding Christians, by the way. And we complement each other, we support each other, and it lightens the load when you have 15 other people doing their jobs. You don't have to do every job. So
yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really good. And the fact that you've built such a great team, which is, I guess, why you are able to look within your team and discover who the next leaders of Danbury will be, as relates to ownership. And so how important is that? And I guess for any business to look at, when you look at, and what are the pitfalls to bringing on other owners in a time where you could just be enjoying the success all on your own,
Yeah, I have this expression: the worst deception is self-deception. So you need to be honest with yourself. And the last time I looked, we only have a limited amount of time on this planet. And I started recruiting talent that I thought might be a successor years ago. In fact, two of the 3 young purchasers of my company were people that I recruited. And when I was recruiting them years ago, one was, I think, 5 years ago, the other was 7 years ago, I said, this is somebody I think I can mold into a next generation owner. And then the third person that wasn't into that category actually was the one that's been driving the whole timetable. He was one of our agents who really distinguished himself, had a desire to own a company, came to me and said, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I love Danbury, but I want to own a company, and I'm going to go out and see if I can buy any of the competitors that are out there. And I said, great, let me know what you find. So, and he did that. And he came back with one of the other soon-to-be owners and said, we've explored everything, and there were some opportunities, but we want Danbury. Would you consider selling Danbury? So this was 2.5 years ago. And, I had a timetable. I didn't want to do anything. I just bought the company in 2015 from my partner. I had big debt on it till 2020, this year. And
Yeah.
I said, well, I do, but I don't want to actually close on it. I could enter into an agreement to sell it, but I don't
Hmm.
want to close on it until I have it paid off. And
Yeah.
that made sense with them. But so we struck a deal about 2.5 years ago. And they each own one share of the stock, which represents 1% of the company now, but
Hmm.
they'll own 25% by August 1st. But it wasn't going to work unless they all one agreed to my timetable. And you know, I wish I could have bought the company when I was 40 years old, which is what each of them will be within the
Yeah.
next 12 months. They have a wonderful future ahead of them. And I'm excited that I get to stick around for another 5 years. That was part of the plan. I knew I didn't want to retire at 70. I didn't
Yeah.
mind selling and losing control of the company because I'll only own 25%. But so the plan is that I will sell that remaining 25% in 5 years. And I have
Yeah.
an employment contract through 2025.
Mm. Wow. And that,
Happy to answer any other questions on that you might have.
yeah, no, I mean, it's just, it's interesting because, I think succession planning is important. And you said, you started recruiting, even a few years ago,
Right.
even in that. And
And
so,
when I tell that story, Charles, when I
mhm,
tell it to others, not only say this peer group that I'm in nationally, or even other owners of other kinds of businesses,
yeah.
they're almost envious because this is, well, it's your life's work. Part of you want to go to the grave with it, but is that is that the right thing to do for all the people that are part of it? I
Mm,
mean, that's how a lot of businesses go out of business is because there wasn't succession planning.
yeah.
And I love my people too much to allow that to happen. And I think we've created something. I think you asked me to send a short bio to you, and so what's my bio? Well, God's entrusted me with this company, and I
Yeah.
want to be a good steward of that resource. And
Mm,
that doesn't mean I go to the grave with it. He
right.
wants something that's lasting, and
Yes.
then next generation. Interestingly enough, Danberry will be the only real estate company ever in our market, in the Toledo, Ohio market, that has a third generation of non-family ownership.
Mm,
That tells you how hard it is to transfer ownership of small businesses.
yeah.
But that's why you have to start years in advance.
Mm.
And maybe it takes a little luck, or maybe it takes his blessing, but um, I I am both lucky and blessed. So
Yeah. And I just, I've always believed in succession planning, and sometimes pastors is the hardest ones to talk
right,
with succession plan. Um, but I've always believed in it, but I guess because I've always operated both in the church and in the marketplace. And last year we did a succession plan training for the water department for the city of Toledo, and just the steps and with their senior leadership and all those things. And so, uh, what are some of the things that you put in place as benchmarks to say, or what are some of the indicators, I should say, that you have that you say this person is a good succession?
hmm it's a good question. I think for the two that I recruited with the notion that they could be successors, that was fairly easy because I recruited them into leadership positions.
Mm,
One came in well, actually, they both came in as assistant managers. So I could see them in action. I think each was an assistant manager for a couple of years, and then they moved up into a full management position within one of our branch offices. Um, so there was observing, training, mentoring that was taking place during that period of time. And then once we struck the deal, and it's pretty unusual that you have an 8-year transition plan.
Yeah.
I get that. It may not be easy for others to pull off. For me, it was, but as soon as we entered into that agreement, I started having individual one-on-one meetings monthly with each of the three, and then we bring all three together for another meeting. And we did that for probably about 18 months. We stopped doing it about 10 or 12 months ago when I started spending most of my time in Florida. One of the other things I did, part of being a Kingdom company, one of the things I do is I have a company spiritual advisor, someone who's actually on my payroll, a retired pastor who happens to be a real estate agent. You know the gentleman, does a great job. And so part of the mentoring training, that's part of the transition, was this individual also every month spends time with each of these three individuals to mentor them, to coach them in their faith journey. And they're all three at different steps in their journey. Okay? At least they're on the pathway. When I was 38, 39 years old, I wasn't. I didn't come to the Lord until age 45. So they're already further along at their age than I was. But my in-house spiritual advisor spends time with them monthly as well, which is part of this whole process. We're going to maintain the culture. We're going to be a Kingdom company or a biblical business. Then the owners have to drive that. Now, as I said, everyone on my leadership team is a Christian. That's not a litmus test, but that's the reality of the way it is today. Hasn't always been the case, but that is the reality of it today. So, we do a lot of things. I mean, I think I look back at my walk within the company and my faith, this progression as a biblical business. And, I think it's a daunting task for someone that says, well, wait a second, here's my business, here's my faith. They're supposed to be intertwined. What's that about? It's scary. And it is scary. And it was scary for me. So I believe in baby steps. So what my first big bold move was when I had a company event that involved food, I said a prayer. Very bold. I look back at it now, I kind of laugh about it. But at the moment, that was a big thing because we didn't have prayers before food gatherings within the company. And then, now I'm emboldened someone, as a manager, leader, people come to you with problems. So people come to me with problems. So what would I do? I would offer to pray for them. That took a lot of courage. Funny thing happened. Never had anyone complain about it. Never had. In fact, people would say, would you do that? And I was more bold. I said, well, let me pray over you.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Believe me, some people, that had never happened to them in their lives before. But that was part of the progression. Then we started a Bible study in one of our offices. And, then I hired a spiritual advisor who's available to anyone in the county. We had a gal who lost her husband a year and a half ago in a drowning accident. No church. He performed the ceremony, a celebration of life. 400 people attended. Best one I've ever heard. Just tremendous. And now she goes to his church. And I mean, we're impacting the kingdom, but it starts out with baby steps. You don't have to be a preacher to be a Kingdom company. There are others in the company will. I think the most important thing is you live those values and you produce the fruit that we talked about in the first couple minutes of this interview. And that's what a Kingdom company is.
And letting them grow and mature into that, which is this forced thing, that sometimes breed posers or people that are just sort of like, oh, I'm just going to align to this because this is being forced on me. But it's allowing them to come into that understanding and that thing of their own. I mean, you're discipling people in so many ways. You talked about, buying the company at the age of 45, and you know, and so at that point, I remember you introducing me to a book called Halftime, and or introduced it to our group at Truth at Work, and so. But that is all about transitions and picking up moments. And so a lot of times I always tell people that, you know, you could be at a halftime because it's age appropriate, but sometimes situations create half times, you know, where something like this, somebody's business could be failing, and then coming out of this, they have to be innovative and may go into a different market, may have to make different changes and transitions. And so, what do you say to people in that halftime moment, or that, you know, because you know at halftime, uh, the pep talk is just as important as the next quarter or the next play that you're getting ready to go after. So, what would you say to people who are transitioning now, or even maybe having to start over?
Right. Well, I'd forgotten about the book Halftime, and when I find a book I like, a lot of times I'll buy a case of them and hand them out to friends. And did I give you one of those? I
No,
might have.
I'm still waiting on my copy.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to, when I get back to Toledo, I'll look at my bookshelf and see if I have some more. So anyhow,
I
but
did read
it's
the
a great
summary.
book. Same author wrote another book called, I think, Finishing Strong. I
Yes.
can't think of the author's name right now. But you know, a lot of people are football fans. The analogy at halftime, you regroup, you look at what worked, what didn't work, what can we do, where can we gain an advantage. You do that for you in your life. It's a great gut check time to evaluate yourself. And for some people, halftime could come at age 35. Some, like me, might come at 65 or whenever it was that I read that book. But it's a great time to evaluate your life and where are you to where you want to be.
Mm.
And, if you're not there, you need to hit the reset button and come up with that same, why is it that I want this? How am I going to get there? The goals,
Yeah.
tactics, and plans. And yeah, I think you should build, to me, goal setting, uh, annual goal setting is a 12-month halftime every year.
Yeah.
Every year there's a time for a reset, and you should go through some evaluation. Unfortunately, a lot of people just drift through life,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they say, "Oh man, I'm X years old, and what happened? I haven't gotten this done yet, and
Yeah.
is there going to be enough time?" And
Yeah.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
time of reflection is good, and it's a biblical principle.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is to take that time to reflect, and you know, if you have to start over, you're not the first person, and you won't be the last person, you know. And but you said something very key earlier as part of sharpening that axe, getting around people who have been there, who are going through things, who can challenge you, and all those things. And as you said, we met at a group called Truth at Work, and which today was, you know, was that Truth at Work day for me, you know, because
Oh,
I'm still there. And but you know, it was very valuable because for me, I think that, you know, I love teaching, I love pouring into people, I love any platform I can try to do that on, I will do that on. But and so, but even the aspect of coaching and mentoring on a spiritual level, and even, you know, those things. And so, like, this is a halftime thing for me because, you know, I'm just trying to broaden our horizon past the four walls of the church, and the leaders, and coaching just church leaders, but also reaching past and reaching out. And so, how concerned should a person be about finances, or should they follow the heart and the passion or something?
I'm not sure I understand
Uh,
so it's either or finances or your
or
heart.
yeah,
I mean, from a career standpoint.
especially at a halftime. perspective.
Yeah. So, well, you know, I have a son who's 35 years old,
Hmm.
and 12 years ago, he had maybe it was a little longer than that. He was finishing undergraduate school. Uh, his major was a combined major, psychology and music. And he said, "Dad," and the kid he had a perfect SAT score, so he's a pretty smart kid,
Yeah.
and could do from he could go anywhere and do about anything he wanted to do. So he had a lot of choices. And he called me up. He said, "I don't know." I said, "Do I go into medicine?" And there was some encouragement from other family members to do that,
Hmm.
or do I pursue music? And I said, "Todd, you follow where your heart is." To answer your question, I said, "You should follow your heart, because if you don't do that, you're going to second guess yourself." And
Yeah.
this is a kid who, quite honestly, never was very materialistic. He could wear the same shirt and pants all week long and drive a beat up old car. I mean, he'd make a perfect school teacher, right? So, and that's what he did. He went to the Jacob School of Music, arguably the best graduate school program of its kind, to get his music education master's degree.
Mm.
And now he's a high school music teacher, and he's a very good high school music teacher.
Yeah.
And he's probably one of the most satisfied people you could find out there and what they're doing from a career standpoint. So
Yeah.
I think, I always think that you should follow your heart long term. There
Hmm.
might be short-term reasons why, maybe because you have family needs or whatever, that are financial needs that you need to take care of. I've always told people who, maybe their goal was, well, I can never make more than $50,000. I said, well, let me tell you this. If a surgeon came up to you and said, we need $100,000 to save your kid's life, and you got 12 months to earn it, you'd find a way. You'd find a way to earn $100,000,
Yeah.
because that's a bigger why than your current why. You find a
Right.
way to do it. But rarely are we in those positions where there are those kinds of financial reasons.
Mm.
Although I must say, people coming out of med school have plenty of debt. They probably have a reason to practice medicine for some period
Yeah.
of time. But I think, generally speaking, I think following the heart. Today, from what I read, the sociologists and others will say that people that are getting out of high school today, they're going to have 8 different, very distinguishably different careers. And a
Mm.
third of those career opportunities don't even exist today. Just like a third of the jobs that exist today didn't exist 10 years ago.
That's true.
So, I think the best thing you can do is, it doesn't hurt to pursue where your heart is, because
Yeah.
there's going to be so many opportunities. And I think America's best days, quite honestly, are ahead of it.
Yeah.
And now, to say that, I have to turn off the media reports because it's Armageddon. We're doomed if I listen to the news. But
Right.
I have greater faith in the Lord and what we're doing. So I think
Yeah.
there's going to be great opportunity. And so you pursue your heart, and it doesn't work out, your heart will tell you something else to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then just in our closing, just going back to the whole kingdom company principle, um, or biblical business, and a part of living according to the kingdom is our relationship with the King, of course, that intimate time. Then how we position and live for others to witness and see, and then also giving, and what do we give back, and all those things. And so how much has giving, and even in the times of downturns and the economy was slump, has it been towards your success to keep giving regardless?
Well, it wasn't a suggestion. Biblically, I think it's pretty clear that what we have is not ours, it's God's, and He wants the first fruits. And I think He doesn't say I want it when it's easy. I want it all the time. This is what I expect. If you're going to proclaim yourself as a believer, then this is what you need to do, because there are others that are counting on what we do with these first fruits that are going to benefit. Now, I probably have a different opinion on ministering than some pastors of traditional churches. The church as we know it today did not exist for 300 years after our Lord and Savior walked on this planet. That's why I'm a kingdom company, because the church was the businesses. It was the Lydia, the purple everything colored lady, Abraham was, Abraham, his household, we think, we separate things into, we think households are family. No, it's your work family. His household was tens of thousands of people. And you could go, Joshua, you go through the whole Bible, there's reference to household. Those are businesses. So my business is my ministry, not my mission. It's my ministry. So how do we support ministries? And now most of my support goes to a traditional church. But there's some things that Charles Allen does that's worthy of support. And there's certain things Cherry Street Mission does that are worth support. Or Veterans Matters that, to me, are missions that I support. So whether the first fruits go entirely to the traditional church or somewhere else, they should go to somewhere that advances the kingdom.
Yes.
And all those organizations advance the kingdom. So, and then whether it's easy or hard, and believe me, right now, it's not easy for this guy because one of my whole businesses is shut down.
Right.
And the others are severely restricted.
Yeah.
So it's not easy. It's never easy. To me, it's more gratifying to write the check today when it's harder than when the coffers are overflowing. So, but that's me. I get that some people have to make hard decisions.
Yeah.
But I don't think the first thing you should cut out of your budget's your tithe. So.
Yeah, man. Keep giving, keep sowing. You guys have a wonderful charity attached to your business as well called the Danberry Treasure Chest, which supports families at the Ronald McDonald House. So you want to talk a little bit about that? And
I'm glad you brought it up. Actually, we have two initiatives from a company standpoint. Part of our mission is to care for and give back to the community. Okay, that's in our mission statement. And so we do it two different ways. And the first way is the Danberry Treasure Chest. This is a 501(c) foundation, and it's been around for about 24 years. We've raised about $1.4 million that helps the most needy of children and their family at the Toledo Children's Hospital, which is close to the Ronald McDonald House, different charity. Okay, but so, these are kids and this is a fund of last resort. And in fact, there are other hospitals that have contacted Toledo Children and say, tell us about this fund that we've heard about. So, and especially right now, a lot of times if you have a chronically or critically ill child, one of the parents has to give up their job to take care of them. That just puts pressure in their budget. Maybe they can't make a car repair, utilities are going to get cut off, rent's due. We're the fund of last resort. So we've helped well over 1,000 families. We've raised over 1.4. There's still a little money in it, so I can't say we've handed it out. Last year, our annual fundraiser, and actually it's over the course of a year, we raised $165,000 for the Danberry Treasure Chest. And if someone's interested, they go to danbury.com/charities, and you can learn all you want about it. Now, the other thing that we started 4 years ago that I'm actually a little bit more excited about is because I've enjoyed and benefited so much personally by giving of my time to charitable causes. I wanted others in our company to experience that same joy. So I created what's called the Danberry Community Benefit Program. And we used to have this fabulous summer cocktail party that everyone was invited to. And then I changed the rules. I said, no, you don't get invited unless you donate. First year it was 1 hour of their time to a charity of their choice where they had to donate an actual time and do something. Now we're up to 4 hours over the course of a year. Last year, we had 17,000 hours donated, giving back to the community, helped over 202 organizations in the community.
Wow.
This is impactful. I mean, 165,000 to total children's, that's impactful. But I think this is even more impactful. And I've always said, if just 1 out of every 4 of our people, if this becomes contagious.
Yeah.
And it's not just 4 hours. In fact, there's a gentleman that you know, I think it was your realtor, as an incentive. A lot of people didn't even want to tell us about their hours because they aren't doing it for recognition. But I created an incentive. I said, well, you're the top giver as judged by an independent panel. We're going to give $1,000 to the charity of your choice. Well, now people are willing to say, well, you know, I don't like to brag that I've donated all this time, but if I can get $1,000 for my charity, I'm going to tell you about it. So this guy, I mean, I'm just so proud of our people and the time. I mean, we have people who give hundreds of hours of their time to a cause. We have the longest running Meals on Wheels program in Lucas County. 20-some years, my one office has been doing these mobile Meals on Wheels. I mean, it's just, you know, hundreds of coats for kids at Christmas. And I mean, it's just amazing the charitable giving heart that our people have. It excites me beyond description.
Yeah. And that has definitely translated to your people because even in that case with one of your realtors during this time or during the time of COVID-19, you know, him and his family were making masks.
Right.
They were giving out for free. Like they weren't charging people, and they were very nice masks. Like, you know,
I told him I want one when I get back to Toledo.
Yeah, they're very nice. Even before, because I didn't even see the Facebook post about it, but he knew that because I operated group homes and we have families inside of home, we know that we have to go in and check on.
Right.
He just calls me up and says, hey, you know, do you have any masks? Are you protecting yourself? And I'm like, no. You know, he says, well, me and my family are making them. I'm like, well, okay, well, just let me know how much it is. He's like, no, I'm just dropping you off a few of them, and that was it. You know what I mean? But that I think that you know, he's a very great guy, but it's also the environment he works in that helps breed that type of giving and thoughtfulness, right? Because it's one thing to give, and it's another thing to be thoughtful, you know. And I just love thoughtful people. I love it because, you know, if you think of me and you say, well, hey, you know what? I know Charles is up against X, Y, and Z, you know, so let me do this for them or do this for this person, whatever it is. It's like that thoughtfulness that goes along with being a cheerful giver too, man. It just explodes in people's hearts.
Well, it's not just the beneficiaries, but you know, his co-workers see that. I mean, he's, you know, one of our other favorite causes that you're familiar with is One Matters, part of Veterans Matters, which is one of his other causes. But you know, he invites co-workers to come down to Tent City or whatever. They say, oh, they've never been exposed to it. It touches their heart. Now they're volunteering at Tent City. I mean, it is contagious in a good way. And I tell you, I'm just so proud of our people, and that's why I say it's that engagement that way. I love raising the money. for a great cause, which we do through the Danberry Treasure Chest, but the Danberry Community Benefit Program.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I've always said, yeah, the recipient gets something, but the giver gets more, to
Right.
me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. Well, man, I appreciate your time today. I know you're very busy, and
I have been amazingly so.
yeah, and but I just really appreciate you taking the time out to just share with us today all the things that you have been able to do over the years in a short period of time. Is there any parting words you want to just say to leaders during this time?
Well, I would say that, it was God's intention that our workplace is our ministry. And that, that doesn't mean you need to have gone to school to be a minister. That means you let your heart lead you and what you do. You aspire to develop that fruit of the Spirit that I mentioned earlier. You encourage others within your organization to do the same thing. A lot of good things are going to happen, and God's going to shine down with great favor upon you when He sees these efforts happening. So, let's all make our businesses our ministries.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you again, man. Have a great day. Bless you. Bless all your endeavors and everything you're doing at Danberry. And
Thank you, Charles, for doing this.
yeah.
Which movie theater will I see this in?
we'll definitely let you know when it pops up, but it'll be definitely YouTube and a lot of different other social medias and
Okay, cool.
podcast platforms.